It's freezing. You take the first step outside, you've got your clothes on, you step on the bike, and you realize, what am I doing? Or more importantly, why don't I just go back inside? It's too cold, it's too rainy, I don't want to ride. All these thoughts come into your head, and look, I get it. I've been there. I've been riding my bike for about 6 years, either to university, to work, to get groceries, and all things in between. And I've ridden through a number of winters here, and it is tricky. I will admit that the winters here in Australia aren't like snow or anything, but they can turn pretty full on in terms of, quite heavy rain, piercing winds, especially at the start of the ride when you're just about to step out and the wind just comes straight through you and you just feel like you've got nothing on and you're wondering, how the heck am I going to survive a season of riding in the winter? Well, that's exactly what I'm here to address and share with you the things that I've learnt over the years with these 5 essentials that I use to really help me conquer the winter riding season, look forward to it, feel invincible, almost a sense of smugness, as it were, as I put on my clothes feeling that nothing can hurt me and that I simply go and get the job done and look forward to it time and time again, right? So, before I get into it, I would just like to quickly thank you, or those of you who have previously watched the video regarding 5 cycling essentials to crush your commute. Thank you so much for showing love. I really, enjoyed making that video, as do all of them. But I found it particularly amazing that something I'm really passionate about has started to strike a bit of a chord, or at least helped many of you. So I want to kind of take that a step further, as at the moment it is winter in Australia, and share with you some things that you can incorporate to really, really do well coming into winter, and how to save money on winter essentials as well. So I guess the first thing that I'd like to talk about, I've kind of got a number of things here, is, if I can get it, be the importance of the base layer. The base layer is something that you're going to put on underneath your cycling jersey or jumper, which will, or clothes, which you'll get on, which will kind of help to keep you warmer, because at the end of the day, you need to have your core, or at least your body, kind of have some type of way to retain some type of heat, and these base layers will do that. This is just one from Uniqlo, the Heat Tech. You can also grab from cycling brand specifically. They do like a merino wool based layer. But the beauty of these is they're just simple, they're cheap, they're easy to wash, and they just do the job time and time again. So I prefer the Heat Tech, and of course you can get varying levels of thickness in terms of what level of base layer you'd like to kind of really excel at tailoring and the right type of ride for you. And another benefit is, if you've got these base layers and you only have, say, short sleeve cycling jerseys, you can still wear the jersey on top of that, and then you kind of have a long sleeve cycling jersey. It's like a little bit of a trick, right? Pretty cool. So the first one, yeah, I'd say is definitely a base layer. Next one I would say is really important for winter riding is your long sleeve cycling jersey, which has a brushed fleece inner lining, such as this. And this is quite a number of years old, this one. And I got it for a good deal. I think it was less than $100 or just on $100. And it can seem expensive to get something like this, especially if you would argue that you kind of have to wash this after a ride. But if you pair it with this and kind of get sweaty in this, you can kind of get away with using this for a couple of days, and it's not too bad. So I can kind of recommend that as a way to keep warm, because the thing is, the good thing about these jerseys is they're tight. They've got a particular material on the outside that will somewhat protect against the wind. And then the inside, having that brushed fleecing, will just really help you to feel, again, that the heat's being retained within you, which is really, really cool, right? So I guess on things fleecy for number 3 would be the idea of a longer bib shorts or bib shorts that have a fleecing in them. I seem to have a fetish for fleecing, it seems. For this one, these are a 3/4 bib shorts from AliExpress, and I've used them for, I think I've had this set for 2 to 3 years, and the pad's still doing really, really well. But the beautiful thing about these is, even though these are 3/4 bib like shorts, bib tights, because I'm so short, being 5'4", these actually kind of go all the way down to the start of where my socks finish. Like my socks come up partway up my calf. And so where this finishes is like perfect like match, which is kind of really cool. As you'll notice that when it's really, really cold, it just really helps to have, that warmth be maintained, or that, again, that warmth to be retained. So the thing is, it will kind of really help against those days where you're commuting or you're doing like a longer ride and you just kind of want to just be like warm. And it's understanding how the idea of fleeced clothing, particularly cycling clothing, will really help to be your best friend in these colder months and make you feel quite warm and protected. Almost like, if you think of it like this, when you're at home, you'd love to be in your tracksuit with your like tracksuit pants, and then of course your like hoodie, and that's all like brushed and fleeced, right? This is the exact same thing in the case of your jersey and your bib shorts, and even to some extent your base layer as well. It's kind of like having the comfort of being at home, but being out there on the bike, which is why I consider it an essential, and kind of how it's really helped me on those times where it's really tough. But all the fleecing in the world and warmth won't protect you from the rain or piercing a particularly aggressive wind, which is kind of where the next piece of the puzzle comes into it, which is where you're going to need some type of rain jacket or protection from the elements. This one again is also MARP. It was $300. I think I got it for 180 maybe, which is expensive, I agree. But the thing about this one is, it's probably not the best that it's so dark, but all this black part of the material is actually like the water beads straight off, so it's water repellent. And then this blue underneath here is again fleeced. So it kind of just helps to, again, keep in that warmth when you're pairing your base layer with your long sleeve jersey and this. So if you kind of put, this on, coupled with this, and then this, and then this for when it starts to rain, it's got to be pretty difficult to kind of to feel that like you're not protected, because you're really taking it up that level to understand intelligently how to layer. See, you might still be cold if you've got the long sleeve jersey, if it's particularly cold or the wind's really out, or there's a good chance it's going to rain. Entering this type of like jersey, which like sounds a bit more plasticky almost, is really going to help to offer you that level of extra protection, so that when you finish your ride or along your ride, the water hasn't kind of seeped into you and resulted in you feeling absolutely like you're shivering. Now, of course, this jacket isn't perfect for situations where it's really heavy rain, which I'd recommend a jacket even heavier in terms of perfect rain jacket, which is this one, which is like the last bastion, your final hope to effectively be protected from the harshness of winter rain and particularly frosty colds. So it's kind of like the idea of pairing that jacket and understanding kind of what level of jacket you'd like. But of course, I consider a cycling jacket an absolute essential. And when paired with a wardrobe of long sleeve jersey, or even the base layer with a short sleeve jersey and that jacket on top, the benefit of having a layer that has warmth but then is protected by the casing of this like plasticiness that kind of blocks against the wind will really help to buffer out a lot of that feeling that I said at the start of the video. But of course, there's one element that you'll need to remember that you always want to keep warm, which is of course your hands. So your hands do not move more or less on the bike, so they're quite fixed, and they're actually at the front of the bike, which generally receives quite a lot of bashing from the wind, and it can get really cold really quickly because your hands are so far away from your heart. So these will get incredibly cold. So it's important to have some type of fleeced long finger gloves, such as these, to protect your hands and also give you that grip. Now, I will say that these gloves, while warm, fleecy protective, are kind of that middle of the range in terms of they're good for spring, really cold, say summer mornings, autumn riding when there's no rain, even winter when there's no rain, or when there's a tiny bit of rain. But if you were to ride with these in quite heavy rain, they're just going to get soaked. So you need the next level up where it's actually this type of design, but it's thicker. It's got more that wind repellency and actual water resistance protection to really, really help your hands not get soaked, resulting in you actually being able to be, again, safe and feeling that comfort on the bike and control. See, the thing is, if your gloves are not seeped with rain and water and you're able to grip the brakes properly, you actually feel more in control of your bike, which will lead you to feeling safer, feeling more confident on the road, which is, again, fantastic thing to keep in mind, right? So that kind of covers off, let's see, that's how many items is that now? So they've got the base layers, long sleeve jersey, bib shorts, bike gloves, and then what else am I seeking to talk about? I've only thought of, I've only thought of 4 things. Embarrassed. Hang on. Let me check my notes. No, I just can't count. That is actually 5, but that kind of takes me to my next point. I'd like to mention some like honourable, feats and mentions that while not making the top 5, I'd like you to also consider as, say, bonus tips to also invest in to have that extra benefit. This is what's known as an arse saver, and this simply slots into underneath your seat on your bike, and it kind of clips in there, and it's pretty easy. And basically, when you're riding along and the wheel is kicking up water from the road, this will actually act as a shield, kind of protecting somewhat of that water from spraying straight up your backside, making you soak, or your backpack, and just not feeling that much fun. So that's kind of like why I find these arse savers to be actually quite invaluable in the winter, because I think they also look really cool, but they just really help to just really buffer out that level of like rain and wetness that we don't really like to enjoy and experience. And then other things I can think of for cycling essentials would also be, I've got it here, here it is, I think, yep. This is like pretty cheap, but also very invaluable. It's like, I think it's called a neck bivvy or a snood, where basically you just like put it on like this and it protects your neck from the elements as well, and giving you that level of warmth and layer. You can double it up on itself to kind of like have more protection from the wind, which is fantastic. You can even like put it up your ears somewhat to, again, kind of just really shield and your nose that wind and coldness getting into you. And the good thing about these are they're not really too expensive, and you can kind of also pair it with I don't have it here, a skull cap, which kind of goes underneath your helmet and can kind of like cover your ears a bit, or somewhat your ears. So then like that's covered to just mean that only like this bit's exposed, kind of just really helping to insulate you and, protect you from the buffering of the wind. It's kind of like if you play Pokemon and, if you're like someone uses hail, or is it sandstorm? Let's use hail, that's probably a better example. And if you're not an ice type Pokemon, you get like buffeted by the hail and it damages you. Kind of same thing here. By having these essentials, and kind of the good thing about all these essentials that I've listed, you can use all of them or some of them on your winter riding, depending on how wintry it is, if that makes sense. But they'll be with you for the whole journey, and you can kind of like change them out for other seasons as well. But I think particularly they'll really help you to get through that winter season when you're really struggling to have that motivation and feel, why am I out here? What am I doing? To just really help you get to that next level. And the point of all this, and to steer you in this direction, is to really say how you'll be able to conquer the mountains and conquer life when it's going to be hard outside there, in the sense that it's going to be so cold and wet and miserable, and you really don't want to do it, but you know that there's something to gain from that. And the thing is, the more you get better or consistent at riding in the winter and conquering that really difficult mountain, the more you'll feel that A, you can do anything, B, the crispness of that rain and the quality of that air that you experience is so refreshing for your lungs and lymphatic system. You'll just feel a level of buzz and excitement, and knowing that you can conquer that, ride into work, ride into school, you know, basically take off your jacket, it will dry quickly and then be completely dry underneath, or change into some other clothes. Knowing that you did that is just a feeling of smugness and invincibility, that you just basically appear almost like a superhero somewhat, because you've figured out how to conquer the winter season on a bike, being out against the elements, right? Which is pretty crazy. So that's how you will be able to conquer the mountain and conquer life come this winter season with my 5 essentials. Thanks.